You turn my sixes to nines.
What's up, YouTube and Maul players looking to take their Maul play to the next level? My name's Critical69 and I'm coming at you with the best, I repeat, the best Maul guide that is in existence right now. If you don't believe me, watch the video, tell me what you think, hit that like button, hit that dislike button, hit that subscribe button, comment below, do whatever you need to do to get your opinion in front of me, and we can have a good old debate. So as many of you guys know, this is going to be an extensive guide for beginners, as well as hopefully some veteran players will get some, tips and tricks that'll help them out. For those of you who do not want to listen the entire video, you can take a look at the description and there will be a supporting document that allows you to review this at your own time rather than re-watching the video multiple times. Some people like to listen to videos, some people like to watch videos, and other people like just to read the facts. The first thing I'd like to go over is how to unlock Maul. Unlike the other weapon classes where you unlock them through mastery points and skill points, Maul is not unlocked that way. As you will see, there are no mastery points and no skill points. You can't just equip a weapon and start using Maul. Maul is locked behind Season 3 challenges. In order to get to your Season 3 challenges, you hit F5, go over to your unit challenges, change from Season 7, you will be right here, pop on over, scroll, use this scroll right here, to Season 3, confirm it, then start your quests. I have all of my quests unlocked for Maul, but each of these tabs will have different challenges underneath that you need to complete to unlock different skills. Once you complete all of the Maul challenges, you need to complete Paragon 1 challenges as well, and then Paragon 2 challenges as well. This will allow you to unlock all of the skills that you need to be successful for Maul. Now we will be going over the ideal Maul build that is the most helpful and mobile build of them all. The 4 skills that you will be using are 3 basic skills: Mighty Mjolnir, Bonebreaker, Uku's Doom, and then your ultimate, which is Strike and Grapple. That is known as the Grab. Let's review the first skill. Mighty Mjolnir is essential across all builds because it allows you to fully charge a skill like Bonebreaker without sitting there and charging the skill. As you will see in this animation right here, he's standing still and charging the skill. You never want to do that. You use Mighty Mjolnir into Bonebreaker and it'll immediately fully charge the skill without having to sit still and hold the button. The next skill that is essential for using is Uku's Doom. Removes dazed. It also knocks back enemies. Now this is essential for both unit control and hero control. Uku's Doom is a survivability skill that you need, and in order to properly animation cancel and respond to when heroes are engaging on you, or when infantry are charging you, or when cavalry is charging you. The fact that Uku's Doom can cancel a lot of other hero skills is insane for control over the front line. The final skill is Strike and Grapple. Now this is the Grab. This skill can be used very effectively, or you can fail miserably with it. I'm going to be honest with you, out of every grab that I land, I miss 2. 1 because of ping, or 2 because of desync, or 3 because I just messed up, and that's totally fine. But what you need is you need to be able to recover from that, and Uku's Doom does that. Acceptable uses for Strike and Grapple. Throwing a hero off of a wall. This is great for, say, a short sword coming into you, and you want to just, rather than killing him, you want to pretty much remove him from the battle. You just throw him off a wall. If a hero, like a short sword, is on a capture point, you want to use this grab to run them off of the capture point and allow your team to continue capturing said point. Another way to use this is running a hero into a wall. This will allow your teammates to kill the hero while you are running them into a wall. Find the nearest wall, run the hero into the wall, and your team will see this, and they will start killing that hero that is on your shoulder. Keep in mind, this skill requires stamina. The second you run out of stamina, you can no longer carry said hero. Another effective way to use this skill is running the hero that you grabbed into braced or charging units, either one. So say if there's some braced stalwarts or some braced 40s, run the hero over them, they'll eventually die. Or charging Liaos or charging Hussars, just run back towards the charge and they'll take the charge damage. Now for unacceptable uses of this skill. One of my pet peeves is when I see a Maul use a grab on a hero that is less than 25% health. That's a complete waste. You could have saved your ultimate for someone else. Stop trying to hero kill and steal kills when you could have just normally DPS'd that person. Another unacceptable use of this skill is bringing a hero back onto a capture point. The amount of times that I've seen Mauls grab a hero that is off nowhere and bring them onto a capture point when your heroes and your teammates are trying to capture a point, it's just unacceptable. You're delaying the game. Please do not do that. The final unacceptable use of this is running a hero away from the rest of your team so that you can kill the hero. You either run them back into your team and let your team kill them, or don't grab them. Now for the skills that are more debatable, as to say, or just downright useless. Earth Splitter. I've tested it, I've used it. It's not very impressive at all. The other skills are just better for DPS as well as CC. Uku's, just better. Up from Hell. It's a wannabe Uku's. It does remove the dazed effect, but it just isn't worth it. Now, Maelstrom. Maelstrom does less damage than Bonebreaker. Maelstrom and Bonebreaker both have 12-second cooldowns. So if you're going to be using your Mighty Mjolnir on cooldown into a skill, you're going to pick the higher DPS skill, and that's Bonebreaker. Bonebreaker can also be 360 spun. As you're using the skill, you can control and move your hero. When you use Maelstrom, you cannot do that. You just spin in a circle and move forward or move left or move right slightly. The 360 spin on Bonebreaker allows you to target certain targets and DPS in certain areas. Maelstrom is only useful when you use the two-piece epic schematic set known as the Hammer of God's Armour. Now, I only suggest using this in Territory Wars applications. This allows you to just remove your grab and put in Maelstrom, because this will increase your DPS substantially. Rather than using your basic attack spam, you're going to be using Bonebreaker, then Maelstrom. Bonebreaker, then Maelstrom. Because the cooldown of Mighty Mjolnir, which allows you to fully charge a skill, is less, and it allows you to spam both Bonebreaker and Maelstrom. The final skill that we will review is Forge of War. This is your other ultimate. Remember, you can only have one ultimate equipped. And if you're going to have an ultimate equipped, it's Strike and Grapple. Not Forge of War, because as you will see here, the animation is extremely slow and it's easily CC'd. It does remove dazed, which is great, but you already have Uku's to do that. And this does a substantial amount of damage, plus it knocks down enemies, but it just doesn't cause the disruption that Bonebreaker causes, and it's not as helpful as like Grab. This Forge of War, if it was faster, would be a lot more ideal, all you need to do for your weapon is most likely you'll be given a free weapon if you're a brand new Maul player, or you'll have Mauls laying around if you've been playing as a veteran, or you may want to craft one. So as you start out, you pop over to the smith. Once you get over to the smith, you hit create weapons and guides, and you can use the drop down, pop over to Maul. Now, as you will see here, there's multiple different Mauls that you can use at different levels. If you're a brand new player, use the Rockfall, pretty straightforward. Then the Pile Driver, Rockfall, then the Pulverizer. But what you need to be on the lookout for is crafting Earthshakers. Now, in order to craft an Earthshaker, you need a weapon schematic, and it's a blue weapon schematic. This is going to be your bread and butter weapon that you're most likely going to use for majority of your play as Maul. The reason why you're using a rare schematic versus an epic schematic is for one of two reasons. First of all, epic schematics are extremely hard to get. Most veteran players have only gotten a few, or they saved up for them and purchased them with silver. I wouldn't worry about crafting an epic schematic if you are not at that level, or at all, because most likely the chances of you getting a good roll on an epic schematic is slim to none. It is easier than a lot of other weapons, but as you'll see in my inventory, I'll pop over to you'll see I made a Mjolnir, and it was garbage. So I wasted my first epic schematic on a weapon, and it wasn't good. Since then, I have become more educated, and I'm using my epic schematics on armor. Now, this rare schematic will allow you to craft anything between a rare, an epic, or a legendary Earthshaker. Stat prioritization for your Earthshaker is as follows. You want blunt damage, then blunt penetration, then strength, then agility, then critical value. Now, if you're having issues getting the supplies for these, most likely you can open one of your weapon boxes that you're going to get as a new player, or you can purchase some schematics off of the auction house. If you're having issues getting powdered silver, then you need to salvage horse gear. There's multiple guides on salvaging horse gear. Pretty much you just salvage green horse gear and you're going to get or have a chance at getting powdered silver. Once you have 30 powdered silver, you can then craft into a Maul. The reason why I'm going over your weapon first, and then your armor, and then your runes, and then your attribute points is because your attribute points you can control at any point in time. Your armor and your weapon are both RNG based, random number generated. As you will see, I have two separate Mauls. One is higher pen, the other one's higher blunt damage. There's some statistics in there, but those are random. I cannot control that turnout. So what you want to do is you want to use your attribute points after you've developed your armor and your weapons. This will enable you to better manipulate the proper damage output and damage reduction that you want to obtain based off your playstyle. Next, we will review armor choices. So, same thing as when you were crafting your weapon, you pop over to the smith, go to create weapons or armor, select which piece of armor that you would like to craft, move over to heavy armor. Maul is a heavy armor class, which means that it can wear heavy armor, medium armor, and light armor. As a Maul player, you want to only wear heavy armor. There are some argument that you can wear 2-piece medium armor and 2-piece heavy armor, but you're losing your survivability by doing this substantially. So you do not want to do that. You want to wear all heavy armor. The different types of heavy armors that you can craft are the conscript's helmet, the pikeman's pot, the crested leather helmet. These are all at different levels, and they're kind of secondary if you don't have the schematic such to make guardsmen. Now, guardsmen is going to be the main armor that you wear for majority of your life as a Maul. There is the epic schematic set, which is Hammer of Gods, which once you craft this, it's very hard to get because it's made from epic schematics, and those are very rare drops, or you can obtain like 1 to 2, sometimes 3 per season through other measures. For this, the 2-piece set, which reduces cooldown of Mighty Mjolnir by 2 seconds, is really good. But the 4-piece is not so good because, to be honest, reducing stamina cost of charging skills by 1/3. When you use your Mighty Mjolnir into Bonebreaker, which is your only charging skill that you're going to be using, the cost of the stamina is 1 bar of stamina. Unlike when you fully charge it, it costs all of your bars. So this 4-piece is not very good. However, Guardsman armor is essential. Guardsman armor is essential because it allows you to be extremely tanky with a little bit of a health buff. Now, when you craft this, just like your weapon, it comes down to RNG. You're going to get rare, epic, or legendary crafts. The stats that you want to prioritize when you're crafting this is leadership, piercing defense, slashing defense, blunt defense, health, critical defense, and critical value. This is how I prioritize my roles. Leadership is essential because the maximum leadership that you can get on per piece of crafted armor is 25. That'll allow you to bring more units into battle. Now, this is very good for sieges, for ranked, and sometimes territory wars. Depends on the situation in territory wars. Territory wars is a different beast, as to say, because sometimes, like myself or some advanced players, we choose to only bring 2 units into territory wars rather than 3. So you don't need all of your leadership in that case. And you can swap out some of your leadership gear, which you should be end game, you should be running 2 sets of gear. Your tank gear and your leadership gear. Leadership gear, pretty much wear it all the time when you're doing sieges. The more units you have, the more chance you're going to get MVP. In territory wars, however, sometimes you bring double cav. There's no 2 cav things in the game that can use up all of your leadership. You're going to have substantial less leadership. So switch in some pieces of gear, like what I do, which is why I have so much gear. If you look, people are like, oh my God, your inventory is a shit show. It's pretty organized in my book. So I have 2-piece Hammer of God set. I have 4-piece leadership set. I actually have 2 pieces of leadership, as you'll see, because one's a slightly tankier than the other one. It gives me options. And then I also have my actual tanky set. So that's this set. So as you will see, I have 2 sets of guardsmen, 1 set of Hammer of Gods. This allows me to swap pieces in and out. When you're first starting the game, don't worry about this. Focus on getting leadership. Leadership, leadership, leadership. Then, if for some chance you get lucky and you're getting tankier pieces, then switch them in and out accordingly depending on what build you're bringing for units. Next, we're going to review runes. So, for the Maul, every weapon and armor that you can equip runes on have a power of 6. There's no difference if it's an epic, a rare, or a common, uncommon. No matter what, it's going to have 6 power. So that's for your weapon. In this case, I have an Earthshaker equipped. So for Maul specific runes are the dodge distance is increased by 20%. This is insanely good. It increases your dodge by approximately 1 full body length. Now, doesn't seem like a lot, But when you're making split decisions and trying to survive situations or get out or away from certain skills like a short sword ultimate, this extra 20% will allow you to get out of that range in 2 dodges, which is phenomenal. I highly suggest you use this rune. Now, the next rune, Earth Splitter. I don't use that skill. Not many people do. It's not worth using. Don't use the rune for it. This stamina regeneration, which increases by 10%, is really helpful. You want this. So, equip these 2 runes, and you'll be off to the races for your Maul weapon. Next is your armor. Now, this is a touchy subject because we're starting to work towards how to properly build Maul with attribute points. Runes were added into the game recently, and the way that I view runes is runes are designed to make you as a Maul survive longer and assist your team in pushing points or surviving on points or doing more damage on points or taking a breach and dying in that breach and buffing everyone around you. There's certain things that your job as a Maul is to do. Your job as a Maul is to control the front line, do as much damage as possible on the front line without sacrificing your survivability. The longer you're in the fight on the front line and controlling the front line, the more DPS you can do, the more likely you are to win that push or defend that point. So for me, my runes revolve around survivability and buffing the people around you. Maul already does plenty of damage. You do not need to buff your damage pretty much at all unless you have not so good weapon. If you get a really good roll on your weapon, then putting points into strength is less important than your armor. However, you could have the best of both worlds, and then you're just off to the races and you're doing God's work. That's fine too. But generally, Maul already does enough damage on the front line that you don't really need to buff its damage. For me, I don't need to do that. We can break into the damage calculator, which I will go over shortly, and that information on what units Maul should be DPSing and how much pen is needed and how much damage is needed in order to maximize your damage against certain units or certain heroes' defenses and stuff like that. That's all in the damage calculator, and that'll be discussed later. So for runes, for your helmet, you can have a number of runes that are ease of life, as to say, but not essential. So like bandaging while moving, yeah, it's just ease of life. Increasing your health by 800 and it heals all nearby allies by 10% when you die, that's a given. There's no argument there. Each time you kill an enemy hero, it increases your damage by 10% for 10 seconds. I don't see that being very viable in the long run because of the fact that Maul already does so much damage. 10% extra damage for 10 seconds is pretty good, but it relies on you killing an enemy hero, and generally Mauls are good at that, but it's not a consistent thing that happens. Every fight, you're not getting a kill as a Maul. You can try for it, but Maul isn't specifically designed for killing heroes. They are designed for killing units, but in a territory war situation, it's really hard to get that many enemy soldier kills in a short amount of time for it to make a difference for you to continue to do more DPS over a 10-second period. Instead, I would suggest not worrying about damage in this situation and buffing your survivability. This bandage stuff, it's not really that essential. It's ease of life. So instead, I suggest you putting more points into your health and even more health. This will allow you to survive on the front line longer. And this is good for someone like myself because my armor is already to a point where the damage threshold that I'm taking from frontline units is like maximized by having a certain amount of armor, and that'll also be reviewed shortly in the damage calculator section of this video. So that's your helmet. Your chest plate. Again, we can review all the ones that you can use, but while on a capture point, I don't care about that. Most of the fights that I'm in are not on capture points. They're at breaches, they're on walls, they're at essential chokes in territory wars. And this is more of, I would say, a siege's convenience versus a territory wars convenience. If your health is below 30%, movement speed is increased by 7. I'm generally not running from fights. I'm not trying to get away. I'm dying valiantly or surviving. So I don't really need this runaway. Less damage taken if my health drops below 30% could be helpful. However, same with damage output is increased by 15% could be helpful. But then you're riding or teetering on a very dangerous slope where you're relying on having less than 30% health. That's not suggested. Of course, it's going to happen, but it's situational. Compared to something that you can control, which is your health being increased by 600. That's staple. And these other two phenomenal runes that a lot of people overlook. Reducing your damage taken by 5%, that's pretty big. Increasing your damage by 5%, that's pretty big. But like I said before, buffing damage on Maul, not essential. But what is essential is the secondary buffs that these give. After death, nearby allies will take 15% less damage for 20 seconds. And they'll deal 15% more damage for 20 seconds. So on top of the heal that you just gave them for dying valiantly, as the Maul should, on the front line, you gave them 15% less damage and 15% more damage for 20 seconds. That is insane. And it's so helpful when you are pushing points or defending points for your team and or your heroes on your team and all the heroes units around you and your units to get these buffs. It's insanely good. So those are the runes. Remember, you cannot put runes on your boots or your bracers, but those are the runes for your Maul, your helmet, and your chest plate. Now we will review the proper attribute point allocation that you should do as a Maul. Now this is very situational. It relies on a couple of different factors. 1, if you're going to be doing territory wars. 2, if you're going to be doing death matches. Or 3, if you're going to be doing sieges or ranked battles, as to say. In each of these different scenarios, there's a number of outside influences that you have to consider when choosing your stats. The number one thing that you need to focus on with Maul is survivability, in my opinion. Survivability revolves around staying in a fight for much longer. You've probably heard me say this multiple times already. In order to do that, you need to take a look at what your base stats are. Everyone starts out with 17 strength, 17 agility, 17 armor, and 17 toughness. Toughness correlates to health. 1 point in this will raise your toughness or your health by 100 points. 1 point in armor will raise your piercing, slashing, and blunt defenses by 3. 1 point in agility will increase your slashing and blunt armor penetration by 6, while also increasing your piercing damage by 6. This isn't relevant to Maul. Strength will increase your blunt damage and your slashing damage and your piercing armor penetration by 6. Some people, depending on their weapon, may choose to put some points into strength or agility. I believe this is incorrect because most mauls, depending on how good it is, will cover enough blunt damage and blunt penetration to cover the amount of damage that is needed to kill things in front of you. Now, this depends on what you're targeting, so this comes down to playstyle. In my opinion, a proper maul is fighting on the front line and targeting units, not heroes, like stalwarts, 40s, imp walk, cav if you can finagle not getting killed by the cav. But with this in mind, buffing your damage or your damage penetration, blunt damage penetration, is not as essential as buffing something like your armor or your toughness. Some people choose to go full strength. Some people choose to go half strength, half armor, half strength, half toughness, full armor, or full toughness. I personally go full armor. The reason why this is so essential is that your armor and how long you will survive in a battle depends on the attacker's penetration. So units that have low penetration, like stalwarts, which is majority of what you're going to be fighting on the front lines, will do substantially less damage to you when you have extremely high armor versus toughness. This is displayed in our armor calculator. This calculator was calculated through hours of testing by CCQ and Maxtastrophe. Now, I just got out of a meeting with Maxtastrophe so that he could fully explain this to me a little bit better. This entire spreadsheet allows you to break down whether or not it's worth putting all your points into armor or putting all your points into toughness. Generally, the more armor penetration that the attacker against you has, the more toughness you want. So if you are being killed by things like Pavis, Cav, 40s is like in the middle ground, high pen archers, heroes that have high penetration, then you want to focus on toughness. If you are dying to things like stalwarts, somewhat 40s, somewhat IPGs, sword units on the front lines, generally frontline units and heroes that are on the front line don't really have high penetration. Therefore, your armor value and maxing out your armor value will be a much better decision because it'll allow you to take a lot more hits when your armor is extremely high. So, if you notice, this column right here calculates standard stalwart damage and standard stalwart penetration. If I was to go max health, I would only be able to take 88, 89 hits from stalwarts. That is assuming that I went full health over on the left here. That would be buffing my health to 34,000. Right, and keeping my armor at 880 because piercing damage is piercing defense is my current value. If I go full armor, I will be able to take 128 hits from stalwarts. Now, obviously, I'm not going to sit there and take hits from stalwarts. I'm going to be bone breaking, and I'm going to be moving, dodging, inflicting damage and disrupting this front line. But this is generalized for stalwarts or 1400 penetration. It also takes into account all the data down here, armor ranges. It allows you to see stalwarts, 40s, the different type of penetrations and stuff like that. But if you wanted to test a certain unit, you can put their damage in here and their penetration, and then this will see how many hits it will take to kill you at your current values over here. And then it breaks it down if you were to go full armor, all your points into armor, no points into health, all your points into health, no points into armor. Now we will be going over a bunch of Maul tips that I like to use in my gameplay. The first one is your basic attack spam. So as you will see this dummy, if you keep clicking your basic attack, you do 4 sets of attacks before you recycle and then proceed into it again. And as you will notice, the last attack does the most damage, and the first attack does the second most damage. Rather than going through all 4 attacks and standing still for that long duration, you want to manipulate your first attack. So, in order to do that, you can attack once, wait, attack once, wait, attack once, wait. Or you can learn to speed this up through dodge canceling. So attack, dodge, that was slow, attack, dodge, Pretty much as soon as you see the damage calculator animate, that's when you want to dodge again. It's the fastest way to output DPS while your skills like Bonebreaker and Mighty Milnorn is on cooldown. The next thing that I would like to go over is using your dodge to break skill chains like Bonebreaker. So say you're going in and you're about to DPS this person and you go through the entire Bonebreaker. That's fine. But say the situation changes and you are losing health faster than you are outputting DPS, then you want to cancel out and get out. So you go in, Bonebreaker, dodge out, dodge out. You use the dodge cancel to make sure that you can get out of a sticky situation. With that in mind, you need to understand how to cancel your dodge quicker than just letting your dodge go. As you notice, when I dodge to one side, my hero kind of stutters. In order to stop that from happening and say, rather than dodging again and dodging and dodging and dodging and wasting all of your stamina, the best way to control your stamina in this situation is to dodge block. Because if you notice, I get out of that dodge animation faster. So as you will see, if I'm walking in a circle and I dodge and I cancel, I'm still walking rather than dodge, wait, now I'm walking. It's really good to see if you run in a circle and you dodge and I'm still holding over, but it takes a second to delay. So if in between that you decide to block, it'll be faster. As you'll see here, I'm circling much faster by going like this versus this. The next thing that I would like to review is using Uku's Doom. Uku's Doom is essential for recovering from sticky situations. Now, this skill you need to master and use pretty much every time you use Uku's. You're going to be dodging out of Uku's. Now, I will do it slowly. If I Uku's and then dodge backwards, it allows me to recover from dazed, stun the person who's attacking me, and get out of the situation. You can do this extremely fast. As you can see, I just did it there again. Not as fast as possible because the fastest you can do it is you won't even see the glow. Watch. See that Uku's glow right there? Kind of give you like super armor idea. If you can completely cancel that, that's how you know you're doing it very quickly. I didn't do it that fast there, but you get the idea. We'll do it one more time, see if I can nail it. And there you go. You didn't even see the animation. My Uku's is on cooldown, and you're off to the races. So I've provided a supporting documentation in the description that you guys can take a look at. Please, 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 if you enjoyed this video, or if you would like to see more of this style, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe. Thank you so much for all of your support. And hopefully, I'll be seeing you on the battlefield soon.